Assalamu alaikum and مساكم الله بالخير. Good evening, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Over the next 4 decades, the global transportation sector will face several unprecedented challenges. We have seen from today's morning that the world population is expected to reach 9.2 billion people, and we expect more than 70% of them to live in cities. In addition, the number of megacities around the world is expected to increase from a current level of 22 megacities to a number between 60 and 100. Many of these megacities, emerging mostly from Asia, Latin America, and Africa, will face higher levels of traffic congestion, local pollution, and noise. Furthermore, these adverse effects will be amplified by the 2 to 3 billion cars and trucks that are expected to be on the road and in circulation by 2050. Challenges related to demographics, urbanization, and growth in fuel demand will all be compounded by the uncertainties emerging from the unpredicted degree of government interventions and regulations, regional and global cooperation, in addition to unstable economic situations around the world and potential technology breakthroughs. In light of these challenges and uncertainties surrounding the global transport sector, we at the World Energy Council undertook the task of examining the future of the relationship between energy and transport and built Global Transport Scenarios 2050. The aim of this task was to construct and describe global transport scenarios that would reflect the potential developments in transport fuels, technologies, and systems over the course of the next 40 years. With the completion of the task early this month, we looked at the world in 2 contrasting scenarios, namely full throttle and cruise, and please bear in mind that these are working titles at this time. The main difference between the 2 scenarios is the government's intervention to regulate the transport markets. In the full throttle scenario, the transport solutions are driven by pure market forces which create a climate for open competition. In contrast, the cruise scenario envisions that the governments will put common interests at forefront and intervene in markets regulating and dictating policies. For example, under this scenario, we see an early penetration of electric vehicles and a larger use of electricity in the public transport. Of course, this is all dictated and directed by the various governments around the globe. At this point, I would like to get your attention that a detailed scenarios description, along with the specific regional inputs that we had incorporated in our scenarios, can be accessed and viewed at our website, worldenergy.org. In quantifying these 2 scenarios, we noted that the global transport fuel demand will increase by 30 to 80% above the 2010 levels. The bulk of this increase is expected to come from trucks, trains, ships, and airplanes. Indeed, this all depends on the degree of the government interventions. We also noted that the demand, and this agrees with the previous conclusions this morning, that the demand will be shifting from OECD countries to non-OECD countries, specifically China and India. As for the fuel mix, we noted that the demand for gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel will increase by 10 to 70% above the 2010 levels and will still constitute 80 to 90% of the transport fuel market. The increase is entirely diesel and jet fuel, as we have noticed that the gasoline market is expected to shrink. The biofuels are expected to increase by about 4-folds, while other fuels, which includes electricity, natural gas, and hydrogen, are expected to increase by 6 to 7-folds. Ladies and gentlemen, despite the emphasis that we had in our scenarios on electric mobility and technology leapfrogging, the total number of cars globally is expected to increase by 2.2 to 2.6 times the 2010 levels. Most of this increase will come from non-OECD countries, in which the number of cars is expected to increase by 4 to 5 folds, while the OECD countries are expected to increase by 37 to 41% only. By the end of the scenario period, that's 2050, we expect the non-OECD countries to have about 55 to 65% of the global car fleet. The CO2 emission from the transport sector is also expected to increase by 15 to 80% depending on the degree of the government intervention. Please keep in mind that the CO2 emission from the transport sector is about 23% of the global CO2 emission. With this complete picture of the global transport in 2050, and in light of the obvious tensions that we will see in the system, we are quite confident that the global transport sector can and will overcome the many challenges which lie ahead. The biggest of these challenges will be to provide a sustainable transport world to move the 6 billion people at the lowest social cost, where congestion, pollution, and noise generated by the additional traffic and freight volumes is minimal. Indeed, the dynamics and the magnitude of these developments offer us the opportunity to adjust the manners in which the consumers, entrepreneurs, governments, and private businesses view their future plans and expectations. We have no doubt that with the birth of consumer-producer dialogue, with the breakthroughs made in conventional and unconventional energy resources extraction, with the expansion and the use of renewable resources, and with the technological improvement and technology transfers, all complemented by policies specifically tailored to suit various region needs, we will all ensure a sustainable future for transport, and we will raise optimism about a better quality of life for current and future generations. Thank you.